running late tonight. Not really, like 10 seconds late. So thanks for coming, everybody. I was trying to tell Wally this is his crowd so far, which is fine. We have Frank, we've got Aunt Sandy Skinks, we've got Wally, and Aaron Slithering Science. That's a new one for me. Some of my audience, they come in at like 8 o'clock and throw a bunch of comments around and then come out. But that's okay. Glad to have you. Glad to have everybody. So, Frank, we're not going to talk about waffles tonight. We have no waffles policy on my show. I'm sorry. Waffles is gone. It's the season for that to be over. But I love waffles. Tonight we've got Wally Kern or Kern, I guess I could put a hard K on that, from Supreme Gecko. You all know him. If you're watching this for the first time and you don't know Wally, you should go see his show. It's even better. And go check out his website. We're going to have links in the description afterwards, as usual. Let's see. We're going to talk about Picta Geckos. That's all I know what to call them. Wally's going to have the full scientific name. They're little arid geckos, and they're really cool. And I want to learn more about them. So I'm hoping that my learning will teach your learning and or inform your learning, and it'll be good. You may notice my Isopods Anonymous t-shirt, which I can't figure out how to show it off. This was a gift this week from Kyle over at Isopods Anonymous. Oh, Wally. I thought Wally was showing off his shirt. Let's bring Wally on. Sandy Sizemore's here. Oh, she's Sandy Skinks too. All right, we got 2 viewers thanks to Sandy. I'd appreciate it for 2 likes, Sandy. If you could, like and subscribe with both accounts. Hi, Wally. How we doing?
I'm doing good. Hi, everyone. Was that Wally Worm? What did you say?
I think I said Gurn. I don't know what happened to my throat. I said Gurn, and I was like, no, I need to address that because that somebody's going to say something about it.
I get called everything. I'm fascinated by all the knickknacks and everything behind you. I could sit here for a half hour and just kind of look around.
This is all my 3D printer and 3D printed items. Here we go. I'll give it to her someday. This is a Kong-like gorilla that I need to paint. I paint miniatures for role-playing games.
Nice.
So, yeah. So these are my paints.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Most of them. I also have a big drawer full of like apple barrel. Yeah, it's a mess right now. I'm organizing the rest of the basement. So, because that 100, I found out my 125 gallon is actually a 100 gallon. So, I had the wrong measurements when I bought the 4x4s to make the frame for it to stand on, and yeah, I don't have a power saw, so I have to like hand saw those 4x4s down.
Are you
I'm not excited.
Sawing? Like with a hacksaw?
Yeah. I have
oh my gosh.
I forget what it's called. It's a back saw. It's got the spine on it, right? So, with just a flat rectangle. I forget the name of that kind of saw, but yeah, it's a hand saw. And then I have one that looks like a samurai sword. It has like the ninja sword handle. It's a Japanese pull saw, and actually was cheaper than the regular one to get it with the ninja sword handle. So I'm sure it'll break at any point, but it worked really good on what I used it on. So I'm confident that I'll get the cut that I want. Yeah, we'll see how that works. But yeah,
I think the last time I used a manual saw, I got through about this much of the wood, threw it all down on the ground, and went out and bought a real saw. So
I'm not there yet.
Sucks.
I'm still looking for my power drill because I know if I buy one, I'm going to find it right away.
I know Starlight where mine is.
Age. Yeah, well, if you want to come by, I'll give you my address.
No, I don't have any of my power tools. All of my power tools. I have 3 young boys that are now men, and all of my power tools are gone. So I asked my oldest son, I asked my kids, hey, our long ladder, the extended one that I paid about $250 for, have you seen it? And 2 of them kind of looked at me and like smiled, like, I know where it is, but I'm not going to tell you because you're going to get really mad. So I finally caught the oldest one. Hey, Christopher, my big extender ladder, do you know where that is? I think I paid like a lot of money for it. Oh yeah, I sold the truck that I had to a friend for like $50, and I forgot to take the ladder off.
So the ladder is worth more than the car. Let me comment. I love that your audience shows up at my show when you're on, and they just go about their business. Like it's the exact same comments or conversations. Not the exact same, but like the same feel. Yeah, of course he had to bring up waffles. Told him not to. Was there spreadsheets in there already?
No. I just did. Starla, hi. I just want to say hi to everybody. Sandy, hi. Frank, hi. How are you doing? I saw Angie in here. Lok Carlucci. I don't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Beverly, how are you guys doing? There's Angie. Patrick.
Yep. Angie Schwartz is back on. I still want to talk to her about mushrooms.
Aaron.
Who's that? Cassandra Pope? I don't know who that is. Maybe I do.
Sure. She's Madison, Wisconsin member. Madison Herb Society member. Very strong member. Helps a lot.
I've got who I have from mine audience. I've got Luch, and who else showed up? Somebody else showed up. That
Green Jedi
Patrick Star. Oh, well, he's back. All right. Making problems. Brandon Ferguson just joined IsoBuddies 5 minutes before this. So,
Brandon,
welcome aboard, Brandon. You're the first Facebook person I got to welcome on the show. Yeah. So let's get into it for a little bit. I like catching up, and I like just the regular conversation. So, what is the actual name of the Picta? All I know is Picta.
It's called Periodora Picta, and everybody will call it Periodora pictus. The common names, and if you know one of the common names, Brandon, you're going to know some of these. Go ahead and type them in because they have about 163 different common names. They're from Madagascar, so that should give you a little bit of a clue. It's a small gecko, and the cool thing is that they've been in the hobby forever. I think they were actually one of my first different geckos. You know, we all know about leopard geckos. We know about crested geckos. Everybody starts with a crested gecko or a leopard gecko. I think my third animal was a Periodora picta. But the problem, 20 years ago was everything that was on a reptile show table was coming from the wild. It was a big problem. That was a big problem because, and what do you think? What do you think about wild animals?
I think that it all has to start somewhere. So unfortunately, that's where it came from. And now we're into captive bred. But I think wild animals are usually riddled with parasites or aren't going to do well in captivity initially, but for the most part. So obviously you have success stories because we have captive bred animals now.
Exactly.
But I think, and there's going to be a lot of ignorance originally from people that can make assumptions, but there's not a lot. Well, back in the day, we're talking like the 80s, right? Is that when you're talking like the 80s,
even
90s?
Before that too, sure.
Well, yeah. I guess that's when I came on the scene. When we had, look at that. That's a weird looking Picta.
So this is not the Picta.
I know.
So everybody knows what this is, and he's going to jump right on the camera. I can just see it. Look at that.
I know.
Down. Wow.
I saw his toes curl up. Like I'm going.
Let's see if we can get a focus on this guy. There we go. Almost.
He was focused really well.
For like 2 seconds. So this is a crested gecko. Everybody knows what a crested gecko is. Everybody has probably, if you're into reptiles, if you're into geckos, you've probably kept a crested gecko at some point.
And if you're lazy.
And if you're lazy, because they're so easy.
Easy.
No special lighting, no special heat. They eat the diet super, super easy. And again, that was one of my first geckos. And then I also kept, and I'm going to see if I can get a focus on this one. If you didn't keep crested geckos, then you probably kept, this is like show and tell. You know what? I'm going to try this. Because
Leos.
You better look at this. And the colors on this animal are just not even coming through at all. This is a red, almost a red orange. So if you didn't keep a crested gecko when you started, you probably kept a leopard gecko. Almost as easy, certainly as handleable, right?
Yeah, the only thing harder about a leopard is the heat, is the only thing, and that's no big deal.
Exactly.
So a heat pad and you're good to go.
Yes. A lot of back and forth about substrate, sand, not good, things like that. But those are the two standards. And if you're into geckos like I was 20 years ago, I started gravitating to other animals. African fattails, another great
Okay.
starter gecko. But I wanted something different. And again, looking at the reptile shows, here's this weird animal called Periodora picta. It's a little gray, maybe some stripes, maybe not reticulated, just something different. But again, the problem is that all of them at that time were coming in from the wild. So not only, the parasite issue and, they're wild, they're just not right. Sometimes the stress of bringing them into the country and sitting in cups for a week or two, sitting in somebody's enclosure while they wait to sell it at a reptile show with 30 animals in a 10-gallon tank.
And hundreds of giant simians running around staring at them and tapping it. And
so big issues there. But eventually, people started working with Periodora picta. I started working with Periodora picta. The community back then, it was all forums, Rapashi Forum, King Snake Forum, conversations back and forth. What's the best way to keep them? Heat. How do you incubate the eggs? So it started to boil a little bit. The interest started getting out there for Periodora picta. While, we also had Australians gaining popularity, and we had, some of the weird African geckos gaining popularity. But for me, it's always been, so from a Supreme Gecko business standpoint, probably 75 to 80% of my sales is Picta Geckos. But then, from a Wally Kern standpoint, Periodora picta, even though I've kept probably about 100 to 150 different species of geckos, Periodora picta is my favorite, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. They're a smaller animal, leopard. Think leopard gecko. So, you know the size, and you mentioned a couple of not gotchas, but things to consider. They need heat. They have to have live foods, right?
Sure.
So think leopard gecko kind of that way, but smaller, so half the size. So that means I can keep twice as many.
So they're just half the size. I thought they were smaller, but I think I've only seen juveniles in person. Obviously, it shows.
Smaller.
So I thought they were like this big total with the tail and everything, which is like a third of a leopard gecko. Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to it. I'm just telling you my assumptions. Are you drinking Red Bull?
Yeah. Good job.
Are you drinking like a Red Bull? What do you got going on there?
What do I have? I don't know. I grabbed one of Nanette's. I have V8 energy drink.
V8. That sounds more appropriate. Okay, I'm proud of you. V8 energy drink sounds more appropriate. Well, you should get into, and Pepsi if you're listening, Pepsi Cola cream soda or black cherry soda shop, or it's just soda shop, I guess.
Did you say that's Pepsi Cola Supreme something?
Soda shop, but it is Supreme. I think the flavor is Supreme. They don't sell these very often yet. I have to find them on scavenger hunts now. So I have a stash, and I drink like 2 a week. I'm just savoring them. I also found, if you're listening, Sprecker's Root Beer. Sprecker's handcrafted sodas. They have a 24-pack of Sprecker's Root Beer at Costco for $20. That's less than $1 of Sprecker's, my friend. Right. And they're $3 each. Yeah,
that's a Supreme right there. That's top of the food chain for root beers, at least.
I said I would be losing money if I didn't buy this. I feel like
I would be causing your family financial damage if you did not buy that.
Exactly. So I could put that money into my first Picta. So let's see who else is here. Scott just showed up, so that's cool. Scott Ellicott.
Hey, Scott.
Cassandra Pump's been here. He's my aunt buddy. He was on last week. So they're half the size of a Leo. They have all the personality. Last time I talked to you, you told me that they do the tail twitch when they're about to strike.
They do.
Sometimes
there's a lot of different behaviors. The best thing about them is that they're very handleable. So I kind of wear two hats. I wear the Supreme Gecko business hat when we're talking about and dealing with Periodora picta. So, I have to deal with the money side of things. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but I also wear the man, I'm a keeper, and these are cool animals. These are super cool. So I can sit at a show, and people will come up, and I can talk about crested geckos. I can talk about leopard geckos. I can talk about Periodora picta, and I can take one out, and I can hold it, and I can let people hold it and play with it, and it kind of moves your crested geckos come out, and they go choo choo choo. They jump, 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 and now they're on the floor. Well, not literally. Leopard geckos come out, and they're kind of, a lot of them are kind of squirmy when they come out. But a Periodora picta, I can take right out of the cup. Periodora
Here he goes.
picta.
Here he goes. We had show and tell today. I didn't know we were going to have so much show and tell. I love it.
I can take a Periodora picta. Now watch this, and it's going to jump across.
It's going to freak out.
Yeah, it's going to freak out, and so I can.
Like, I don't want to be on this show. This guy's super unprofessional. Oh wow, I love that.
I'm going to hold it upside down too, and really freak it out.
I love the big eyes. I love the smile of the leopard gecko. I love the marbled looking, and they have. It looks like they have a bunch of variations in the photos you showed.
There are so many variations. Whoops, sorry.
That cream stripe down the back is just gorgeous.
So this is a real nice, light Periodora. So now I can talk to people and I can sell, from a business standpoint, but more so educate and explain what these animals are and how easy they are to care for. And hey, you're looking for a family first reptile? There you go, right there. Perfect first animal.
Well, I saw anybody that follows Wally on Facebook, he posted some pictures, or you posted some pictures this week of you at a show doing what Wally does, educating, and there was like a 12-year-old girl holding one. And I would, my initial reaction is like, Wally, how do you put these lizards in a child's hand at a show? It's just some rando. And now it makes so much more sense. I didn't know they were that easy to handle. I always worry with a small gecko.
Yeah, we get asked all the time. And it's hard because you have to go through that decision-making process. Should I take it out and it's going to jump, jump, jump? And is that really healthy and educational if it's just jumping and it's uncontrollable? Well, nobody's going to focus on it at that point. So I can do the whole educational thing with the Periodora pictas because 99 out of 100 times it's going to come out and it's just going to sit right there. And it's going to get the warmth and just really not going to go anywhere. And it shows, and I think I've said this before on your show, but it shows the cool thing is that I can bring an animal out like that. Can I hold one of your animals? Sure. Let me bring a Periodora picta out. And the kid is holding it. And we don't do it for, 3, 4, 5-year-olds.
Sure, sure.
We do it for, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. Somebody that's going to know when I say hold your hands flat, I just let it sit in your hands and don't squeeze. And if it runs, I'm right here and I'm going to get it. Yeah. Whereas, younger children will, their first instinct is to grab the animal. So we're kind of diligent in, who we're showing these animals to. But to see, 10, 11, just like the picture from this weekend, holding a Periodora picta and just kind of observing and looking at the eyes and the tail and the feet and feeling the claws, the little tiny claws. And then to see mom or dad just kind of go, I don't know. It's like, now it's my turn. So what I have to do is I've got eventually the young person, the new keeper will relinquish the gecko back to me. Are you all done? Okay, let me go ahead and take it. Okay, mom or dad, would you like to hold it? And if I see that, no, I really don't push it too much. If I see any kind of curiosity, then I drive forward and I try to get them to hold it too. Or at least, how about if I hold it right here? I've got the head. How about if you just touch the tail? And sometimes that's their first experience with reptiles. And that's my day right there. That makes my day.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the 3 or 5-year-olds, 3 to 5 is like, I'm going to love him and hug him and squeeze him, George.
You will love him forever.
You're going to wreck that gecko is what you're going to do. That's how I lost my first beta, is my sister thought it needed a hug, and she pulled it out of the tank. And
oh, no.
Yeah, she hugged it. I think I was 10.
Happens.
I think I was 10 years old. And I wasn't keeping it correctly, and it was doomed. But, you keep them in a mason jar or something. It was not good. It's not a good situation for him either way. So hopefully it was quick. That's all.
I think we've all kind of been there at some point.
Yeah. We had to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So no disrespect to the new keepers out there. There's nobody new here tonight. They may watch later. Yeah, I just love that idea that they can hold them at a show because there's so much going on at shows and it's so chaotic. And there's, a 12-year-old with a Picta in her hand and it's fine.
I see Brandon in here. So now I've turned my hat around and I'm going to talk about the business end of things.
Oh, boy.
We talked about how fun it is to keep them and their behavior. I call them the little prairie dogs of the gecko world because I can go into the facility and I can kind of circle around, and pass them up. And I'm over here feeding. By the time I come back over to the Periodora Picta, they're just all out in front and up on top of cork bark and just kind of, okay, what's going on? Little prairie dogs of the gecko world. Love it. So that's the fun part. And I love that behavior. And I've got to mention real quick, too, that I have 9 out of 10 of mine set up in a sand with a couple of hides, cork bark, and a piece of plant and a food dish and a water dish because I'm in the breeding mode. But I also have some set up in a tropical mode as well. So it's super easy to set them up. They're very tropical, bioactive, crested gecko, climbing branches all over the place. You probably can't see it behind me, but something like this tank right here.
Right above you? Okay.
Yeah, right there. So more tropical. So you can go either way with these, which is really cool. And again, a very easy way to set them up.
That just blew me away. I thought they were like a desert situation. So beach?
They live right on the border and they adjust. They adopt either way.
Okay.
So again, turning my hat around now, I set them up with the sand and breeding and looking for eggs. And Sandy's got a really good question. I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I thought we would get back to it, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've got my hat this way and Brandon's in the room. And let me talk about why Wally, the breeder, Wally, the owner of Supreme Gecko that has to have, be making money now, why I love them so much. So we went through a phase with leopard geckos. Oh my gosh, look at the orange and develop that orange. Those are 20 years ago. Carrot tails, super hypo tangerine carrot tails, black knights, Max Snows and tornadoes and just all ciphers and all these other things. All these more tremper, bells, rainwaters, all over the place. And you saw the hobby, the leopard gecko hobby, just grow and grow and grow. And it's not all about money, but part of this is for me with the Pictas, but it's more of a challenge, is that we saw the same thing with crested geckos, different color forms and different patterns and and the hobby grew and now morphs and true morphs, not just traits. And the market for these animals are going crazy. We're right on the first step, maybe the second step of the Periodora Picta market kind of, I think, going nuts. With Periodora Picta, you have reticulated, you have banded, you have stripes. We saw the stripe a little bit earlier.
Okay.
And even years ago, even 10 years ago, we were seeing 3 lines and we were seeing T+ albinos and amels and xanthics and things like that. Nobody has really, I don't feel, and I think Brandon's going down this route and this is what the hobby needs. Nobody's expanded into, let me work with this line and see what it can do.
Okay.
Maybe we can get
weird.
A broader band. Maybe we can get a red Periodora Picta. Maybe we can get, blacks. Maybe we can get whites. Maybe we could get a pure white animal. I've told this story before. I was at a Tinley Park, NARBC show, reptile show, about 7 or 8 years ago. and I had caught a friend of mine that was selling his collection. He had already sold a lot of them. He was bringing 10 animals for a friend, and I kind of tried to slide in there and say, hey, can I get some of the animals? Oh, they're already sold. Sorry, Wally. So I want to see them before you give them to their new owner. So he brought this grocery bag with 10 Periodor Picta cups in it, 10 animals. And we got together and we're huddling over, and he pulls them out, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing animal I have ever seen in my life. The second one, oh my gosh, that's the most. So he had pure white, pure orange, pure just almost black Periodor Picta. So he kind of ran through, exactly where, unfortunately, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, we've lost a lot of that. And I think there's some good people, again, like Brandon, that are going to start working with these lines and really move it forward again in the hobby. And again, from a business standpoint, that's going to drive the market way up there. Okay. So that's one side of the coin. The other side is eventually, I'm still going to do, I'm still going to do shows, and I'm still going to sell them for $35 or $40 a piece. And I'm still going to, let kids handle them. But the other side of the coin is that there's going to be some amazing traits and morphs and things coming out of these animals in the next, I think, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years.
So Brandon's working with them now in a serious way.
That's right, Brandon. We're going to bring it back. Okay. There's some good keepers in the hobby now, and I think that there's a focus like we didn't have before. So it's going to be fun.
Good. I like that a lot. So I think people have already kind of answered the humidity question, like basically keep a humid hide, but they do like a little humidity.
Yes. There's really only a couple of things to consider with Periodor Picta. The very first is humidity. Sometimes they can go through some shed problems. So I'm going to cover kind of two different ways to address that. If you're keeping them over sand, I like the flower pot saucers. I don't know if everybody knows what I'm talking about. And you
the little ones, right? The little plate ones.
Yeah. And you put a little notch, little V in them. So they sit real tight to the sand. So if this is the sand, they're just like right on top of the sand with a little V in them. What I do is a couple of times a week, at least once, a couple of times a week, I'll go through and I'll lift it up. I'll look for eggs, but I'll make a little divot in the sand and I'll pour the water right in there so it puddles up, and I'll put the hide right back in. So that area stays damp, moist for, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. So if you're doing sand, that's the way that you can approach it, from a humidity standpoint. They don't need the whole enclosure humid. They just need an area where they can go to gain that humidity.
Okay.
If you're doing tropical, I like to set up little hides, kind of the same, little cups or something, maybe a little taller, with notches, and I'll put sphagnum moss under there, and I'll make sure that sphagnum moss is always damp.
Okay.
So that's one issue, is making sure that they're hydrated. The other issue with Periodor Picta is they breed young. They breed younger than any animal I have ever seen. So a Periodor Picta this size, I'm going to see if I can find this is like a 2.5 to 3 month old.
Okay.
And I'll show you how big this is. A Periodor Picta. Hey, Andrew, how are you doing? A Periodor Picta, and Andrew's doing some really cool stuff with Periodor Picta too. So we'll see if this works.
Okay, this is a juvenile, right?
So this is a juvenile. Yeah. You can see how small it is on my finger. This is like a 3-month-old Periodor Picta. They start developing as males at this size. And once they develop as males, they start really chasing the females. Really chasing the females. Hopefully that comes in. Maybe not.
And come on, buddy. Show off your goods.
Come on. There
we go.
You can see how small these guys are. And you can see me holding them. I have no fear that it's going to jump around. But even at 3 months old, they start developing as males. So you have to start pulling them. If you have a set of group of hatchlings. I don't know if you want to show a picture there of. I think it's Picta babies. Many.
Okay.
So they'll start breeding. You can keep a lot of them in a small tub as long as you're feeding all the time. But the problem is that you have to pull the males because the males will start breeding with the females at that size. And I've had females start laying eggs at 4 or 5 months of age.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that this one?
Yes. So you can
Look
see
at all
this.
them together.
This is probably a 6-quart with a bunch of, 2-week-old, 3-week-old. I put the top of a deli cup down. I fill it up with micro mealworms and calcium. Just let them jump in there and hog out.
I love that they just get to have that free for all. Sorry, my phone has sound tonight for some reason. I love to watch that mass feeding where you can see the one dominating. You see my mouse right here.
My cup.
This guy here, yeah. He's just like, you guys he's even got his head up, like, you guys want me to back up. And I love that their head is bigger than the rest of their body at this stage.
Yes.
That's a huge head with huge eyes. Holy mackerel.
So this picture is probably about 5 years ago. I don't keep that many in an enclosure anymore. I'll probably keep about 4 or 5. And I'll, again, 3 months old, 2 months old to 3 months old, I'll start pulling those babies out. Maybe you can show, let me see here. I was going to show up another picture. Can you show the Pictus eggs, if you would?
Yes. This one?
Yes. So I mentioned before, I do raise them over sand, and in that, under the hide, is the sand is a little bit damp, and I'll kind of comb through that sand with my fingers, and I'll find eggs. I'll take the eggs, I'll put them over a dry material in a bottle cap, and you can see those are just, water bottle caps.
Yeah.
And then,
juice bottle, Gatorade. I see what's going on here.
Exactly. And then I'll put that over vermiculite or perlite or koi fiber or clay material. It really doesn't matter as long as you can keep that material wet and keep the bottle cap material dry, and incubate at about 80 degrees, 82 degrees. And it's that easy. 2 months and they hatch out.
That's awesome. I mean, so these guys are set up as the day you found them, right? Because you have 3 over here on the middle right, and 1s and 2s and everything else. So these are clutches, basically, that you've gotten.
Yeah. So what I probably have done there is the one on the far right is probably a group of 1 male and 2 or 3 females.
Okay.
The ones in the middle, the individuals in the middle, I probably found eggs like 2 days ago when I fed. So I pulled the egg then, and I found the second egg. Maybe the female, laid one day and then waited another day before she laid.
Sure. And this blue one, can you see my mouse on here?
Yeah.
So this blue one here, is that free range? Is that the difference?
That is
grass fed.
That's probably one that is ready to hatch out.
Oh, okay. So they kind of shift color. That's kind of cool.
They darken up a little bit. Yep.
And so what I learned is, so these pink ones, pink and blue, that's ready for shed, right? That's what I learned at the show from you the one time, is pink and blue means they're shedding.
Those are probably just... I'm trying to relate to egg shedding. Those are probably mid hatching, probably like 30 days old. So the one right in the middle is probably brand new, and it really hasn't swollen that much. So in the summer, these are bead boxes or tackle boxes if you fish. In the summer, I'll probably have anywhere from 10 to 20 of these boxes full of Periodora picta eggs.
Okay.
So as kind of for reference, this year I have to go back to the numbers, but I probably hatched out 300, 400, 500 Periodora picta.
Wow.
Out of all of those, to get back to Angie's question, she had a question about morphs. What am I shooting for? Right now, it's anything different. So out of all of those that I hatched out, I had 3 animals that looked a little bit different. One had a full, right from birth, it had a full line. Can you show the baby stripe, Josh? If you can,
Let's see.
you
Where
don't
did
mind.
you go? I think that's this one.
It's the second one. No,
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 no, that's something
no.
else.
Lots
Here
of.
we go.
There you go. So this is what's cool about these animals is right from birth you can tell if they're going to be striped or not. This is going to be striped. The side barring will go away a little bit, and that yellow stripe down the middle will whiten up. It's going to be pretty cool. Now that's a really, really nice stripe, nice wide stripe. In the springtime, I hatched out one where the stripe was white and there were no bars down the side, and the stripe was even wider than this one. It was,
Wow.
it's one of those where if you work with crested gecko morphs or you work with leopard gecko morphs, you go, okay, this is what I've been working with these animals for 3 or 4 or 5 years to try to get. Unfortunately, it was small. I tried as hard as I could, but after 3 or 4 days, it passed on me. It just would not eat, unfortunately.
Ah,
Yeah. If
that's
you
always a shame. Like it happens.
it is, it's one of those where, oh, I've got it, and I can't wait to work with it next year and raise it up and breed it to something, and then oh my gosh, it's not eating. I'm going to lose this, and you work hard, focused, and it passes. As you can go 2 ways. You can kind of look at it and blame yourself and blame the animals, or you can go, okay, we hit on one. There's got to be another one out there somewhere.
That's cool. That's cool. And I like that the community's enough that you could probably farm out animals, like stud them out at this point a little bit.
Exactly. Can you show the white one? It's called roe. It's like go over. That's like
The labels didn't
right
come
there.
through.
There you go.
Okay. The labels didn't come through on this apparently, so
That's all right. This is cool. So this one I call roe. It's about as white as I've ever hatched a periodora. So again, Angie was asking earlier, what's my goal? One of my top goals is to hatch out and develop a line and establish that line for whites, for snows.
okay.
And this one is looking just patternless. It doesn't have like hardly any pattern on it. And it'll be something that this year, 2023, I'll start working with and try to, bring it back into other animals. I think it's a female though, so I'll have to find my lightest male and breed it to my lightest male to get that second generation, then bring the second generation back into this one. So
Okay.
this is one of the things that I'm working on to try to get the lightest animal that I possibly can. Another animal that I'm trying to develop is a dark animal, a granite animal, super, super, dark, almost, blackish kind of animal. Another animal that I've worked on for quite a while is the broad stripe. And I don't know if you can show that very first animal. Yeah. So, yep.
This one here?
Yes.
Okay.
So trying to take that stripe and bring it out as far as I possibly can. The wider the stripe, the better. Another animal I would love to work with, and I have one that hatched out this year. So I said that there were 3 that hatched out. Roe was one, the white one, and the one that I lost was the second one. This, I hatched out another one talking about stripes where I'm trying to work on a 3 stripe. So we saw earlier, we see this one with a stripe, but I like to see 3 stripes down the back. And I hatched one out that looks really, really different. And I think when it grows up, it might be possibly a 3-stripe, or at least a start to a 3-stripe project. So that's one of my big goals. Another big goal is to start working with albinos, or T plus albinos, they're called. They're not true albinos, but they're kind of an orangish, light orangish. And the problem with them is kind of interesting, is that everybody that I know that's bred them always gets males. So you could take a male to a regular female and you get all males. And I don't know, I've heard reports that some people have gotten females, but I've never really seen any females out there for that T plus albino. But I'd love to work with that animal too.
Are those things that could be like a male trait that shows up more often in a male?
It has to be. It has to be something very, very genetic.
Very strange.
Oh, can you hold on? Let me see the pictures here.
Slow.
There is a T plus albino here, and I'm just trying to find it in your pictures. They're so small.
There's one in the
It might be
front
over to
here.
the, yeah, it might be to the left there. Yes, the very first picture. So you can see a regular on the right, but that left one is called a T. They call it a T plus albino because it doesn't have all the true albino. You can see the eyes aren't pink, but there's albinoism in that gene, and it's very, very true. But again, we just haven't seen any females yet.
I like that it seems the babies go straight to the wet formiculae. Out of their little dry cup, they go straight to that damp. That's kind of an indicator. I wasn't expecting that because in the videos I've seen of yours, they're all on the sand. And so I was expecting the same care as a leopard gecko. And you're saying you can do that, but that's not necessarily their jam.
Yeah. Speaking of leopard geckos, Angie has a really, really, really good question. She's asking about temperature, if Periodora picta can be temperature sex determined. And I've read all kinds of papers, and most of them say no, but I've read a couple that say yes. In my experience, I hatch out Periodora picta in my room. In my room downstairs, the temperatures fluctuate a little bit. In the wintertime, they're certainly cooler. So right now, my temperatures are, much lower than they are in the summer. So I'm letting the eggs hatch out naturally to see if I can see some differences between more males or more females. Now in the summer, I was getting pretty close to 50-50, but I know that some people get a lot more males and some people get more females. So I haven't gotten to the point where I've really researched this too much, and hopefully, Andrew or Brandon or somebody else in the hobby can beat me to it, or I can this year. But I like to see groups, big sample sizes, we're talking 20, 30, 40 animals, incubated at 84 or 86, and a big group of animals incubated at 78, and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could keep them on different shelves, keep a different heat tape under it or whatever, and
exactly.
Or your incubator. Do you use incubators at all, or?
I do. I don't for these guys because we have, stacks and stacks of these bead boxes. So my room, my leopard room is usually around 80. Now in late November, I unplugged everything to let the leopard geckos brumate. So, my temperatures in that room have fallen quite a bit. So we'll see, but it's a matter of, watching these to see what happens with male and female counts.
Okay. And then this is Brandon's comment, and then Andrew said he's going to try it next season.
Excellent. Perfect. It's all a matter of having the room to be able to do something like that too. If you have, you're breeding them and you have 20 hatched out and warm and 20, you've got to keep them all separate in separate tanks, and it takes a lot of extra time and a lot of extra space. So hats off to Brandon and Andrew. Isn't that the cutest thing?
Yeah, it's weird to see that the half of the egg is gone and it's still just folded up like it's in the egg.
Yes.
That's cool.
And this happens a lot. I'll say once every 3 weeks, I'll find one like this.
Just still no, I'm not quite ready. But the half of the egg is popped right off, so clean. I was going to ask if you helped this one along, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I usually don't. I usually don't go in there and help anything. For really any of my geckos. I used to have chihuahuas, and I would help that second egg out for a chihuahua, but for Periodora picta, I just let them, nature take its course. I think it develops more stronger line of animals.
I think so too. And there's a lot of that, like with the turtles, the sea turtles or whatever, don't help them out because they're developing muscles or something. It's part of their development to get out of that, to do that struggle.
Yes. Isn't it amazing how much they fill up that egg, though? You can just see there's no extra room in that egg at all.
No. That's when it's time to go. I I was 4 days late and like 10 pounds, 6 ounces. So I can totally relate to this gecko. I can totally relate to like, no, it's comfortable in here. Like I'm good. And then it pops off and he's just like, now what?
You had your tail kind of wrapped around and you were just kind of
Yep.
really nice and comfy. Yeah.
The tail was the worst part, but yeah, the tail was there. This is a gorgeous one here too.
Thank you.
Like I had this discussion with Andrew about leopard geckos, and this is the same thing with pictas and some of the other ground geckos. Is that what you would call them? The ones without the toe pads?
We didn't talk about their common names, but Madagascar ground gecko, ocellated gecko. There's just so many. Yeah.
That's kind of what I hate about some of the hobbies. Is just too many. Like you get confused. I go to a thing like, oh, I'm looking for ground geckos. Oh, this ocellated gecko. No, it's not it for me. It's not what I want at all. Thanks. What was I going to say? So the babies, like you've got your babies, this picture here, or no, this one here.
Yeah.
I can't relate to, like you breed them. I'm sure Brandon and Andrew for sure, because Andrew and I had this conversation. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I don't know what this is going to turn into because this is not the adults. This is not what the adults look like at all. Like barely the adults are going to look like this. So it's a mystery to me. If I couldn't do a situation unless I had them born completely white, like the other one that you had that's basically white.
It's hard because, well, I tell you, it's not until about 2 months that you can really, I mean, there's some that come out of the egg and they just look different, but 99.99% of them all look the same. You can tell the stripes from the non-stripes. You can tell some of them are a little darker. Some of them are a little bit lighter. Yeah. Some of them have a little tiny bit of a wider stripe than others. But basically they all look the same. They either have stripes or they don't have stripes. It's hard, but at about 2 or 3 months, you can start telling, this is going to be a really light one. This is one that I'm going to separate out, and I'm going to work with this one to try to see what it turns out to be.
Okay, and that's, so you're saying at 2 months you have a good idea, a really solid idea of what that gecko is going to look like.
Yes.
Or just
like, you know, if we talk to Andrew, he knows his leopard geckos. At 2 months, he has a pretty good feel for what that leopard gecko that just hatched out is going to look like.
Well, he was showing me, we were going over geckos like every day for a couple months, and he'd be like, "This is the baby. This is what it's gonna look like." And I'm like, what? How do you know that? Because it's totally apples and oranges. Like it doesn't look anything like what he's saying it's going to. But I'm not the professional. What is this picture here? This is some more babies.
So this is awesome. More of how I had them set up again about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
You can see the deli cup top. You can see 2 of them actually. One has water. You see the one closest to us has the water, and the one farthest away has a little bit of calcium. Probably just set this up for a video that I did. And I throw the mealworms right on top of that deli cup top. They go right into it. They eat. Water dish, they'll walk right into the water dish and drink the water. You can see a couple of little hides back there. The one with the flower pot-ish hide, I have moved that out, and you can see under that hide, I've added some water to make it a little bit more humid. But this is basically it. You know, this is their growing up period for about 2 to 3 months in a container just like this. This is a 6 quart. It looks like we have 4 in there. There might be 5. I might even go 6 in there. I might do sand. I might do paper towel. It really varies.
I see paper towel a lot just because it's so much easier to clean. I imagine it'd be really hard to contain the humidity though, because once you put that water in, it just spreads on a paper towel.
Yes. So here's a little trick. And maybe Brandon and Andrew are doing it with their Picta, but for a tub that I set up for 6 gallons with a paper towel, I'll not use hides like this. I won't use the plastic hides. I'll use egg cartons. So when I go into water to add water to their water dish, I'll take that water bottle and I'll kind of dump a little bit right on top of the egg carton, the cardboard egg cartons. Sure. And that water will hold on those egg cartons for 2 or 3 days. So that gives them that little extra, jump in humidity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a good little like cheat code.
Yes.
Pro tips. So these are the plastic flower pot tea
Yeah.
saucers you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not terracottas, no.
I was wondering because I know that those hold moisture really well too. So I was wondering if that's what you were talking about. But I was like,
Yep.
how does he cut a V in that? But now I get it. It makes sense now. It's clear.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Who
used
else we
to,
got here?
you know,
Oh,
you can you go back one picture just real quick? I've got to point
yep.
something out to
Wait,
your point.
yep.
So you can see that I'm pointing, like you can see where I'm pointing.
I do it every day. I'm glad to see you do it too because I'm
see,
like this
can
thing
you see
here.
right here? Right here.
Yep.
The plastic is notched out. You can see that's actually a terracotta pot on the bottom that I probably tried to put a little notch in, and boom, it cracks all the way off. So
Yep.
that one probably busted in half, and I just I'll just put half of it in there and they'll be fine.
I have found a Dremel tool to be the one to do terracotta. So if you're
Perfect.
going to do something to terracotta, use a Dremel tool. It'll take it, just go slow. It'll take it right down. So it's good times.
Yep.
I haven't done this like a hide like this because I haven't needed to, but I think that would work really well if you wanted to use terracotta. Obviously, you don't have to, and this is a much more fiscally responsible method.
What I really like about those is that they're close to the sand. So it does a couple of things. It retains the humidity in a smaller area. But I think also, I feel, this is my opinion, that the low ceiling next to the sand gives the animals, I wanted to say period or picta, but I use this method in a lot of tanks. I think it gives the animals more protection. Like I'm crammed in here really tight, and the ceiling is right here, so I feel more secure because other animals can't get in here and bother me.
That makes a lot of sense. I totally buy that. I'm totally on board with that mentality. Because a lot of them like that coziness, and there's that discussion all the time of having an animal in too big of an enclosure, too big of a situation. Which I'm on the fence on that, but this makes total sense to give them a hide that feels more secure. Creates far less stress for the animal, I'm sure.
Yes, little animals, they do like 3 things. They eat, they poop, they drink. I guess are 4 things, and they stay away from big animals.
And with their big old eyes, it's got to be pretty easy to see stuff coming.
Yes.
That's how they know you're in the room ready to feed, right?
Exactly.
So these are young ones, aren't they?
So adult animals then do 5 things, and that 5th thing
is this.
I feel dirty looking at this almost. So this is a breeding pair. You can see the male, and gosh, I don't know how much to say here. And the female. I mentioned before, these guys are rabbits. They are rabbits. They will breed all the time. I will get eggs every couple 3 weeks from a female, and she will constantly breed until the temperatures are turned off in their enclosure. Zoom in a little bit. Look at those eyes on that male. It's like, I don't know what he's thinking.
I know what he's thinking. I got a job to do. I'm going to get it done. I think this is called the side saddle. I'm not up to date on my Gecko Kama Sutra, but I think this is the side saddle.
I was just going to say, I'm looking for my book here, and I don't have it handy, but
I have an app.
This is position number 14. So I tried something years ago. This is probably about the same time I took this picture. I tried to determine if babies would be allowed to hatch and grow up in an adult enclosure.
Okay.
So, there's eggs. Well, here we go. We're going to try this out. And I waited and waited. 60 days, they hatched out. And, I was in there like every hour waiting. And I finally saw one of the little babies. I didn't see it hatch out, but I saw it kind of running around. And okay, for those, this is kind of a mature kind of content, or so the baby's running around the front of the enclosure, and the mom's just kind of watching it and looking at it, and The mom kind of gradually kind of comes, and the little baby stops running around and sitting at the front of the enclosure. And the mom comes over, and she's so gentle and kind of comes up to it to smell it. And you can see it smelling. And she just kind of takes her tongue like a mother dog would with one of her little baby pups. And she kind of licks it a couple of times. And I'm thinking, this is really cool. And then she just slams the baby. It's like, oh my God.
Nature, baby. Nature.
Yes, that didn't work.
Yeah, you can't always win.
No.
Oh, here's a bunch of eggs. This is a proud mama right here.
So take a look at this. Take a look at 2 of those eggs and how big that female is.
It's like a kiwi.
Yeah, it's like watermelons compared to us, you know? It's like 2 watermelons.
And she still looks gravid. Like she still looks fat.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very healthy. So, I say
healthy. There you go.
Yeah. Yes. She I say this all the time. I keep my males with my females most of the time. I don't recommend that ever for anybody unless you're really experienced. I'm watching these animals. Worst case scenario, I'm checking them every other day. But you have to be on these animals because the first little ding, a little nick on the head, a little nip on the tail, and the next day that male might take that female down. They breed so hard. You have to be on them all the time. So my recommendation is that in breeding season, if you want to breed these animals, set up your females, nice enclosure, and introduce your male to the female for a day or two. Take them out, a couple, 3 days of rest, bring them back, take them out, and do that 3 times. In for a day, out for 2 or 3, in for a day, out for 2 or 3, and 3 times, and that should set everything in motion. And that will save your females a lot of stress.
Okay. We got some 3D printer people. Maybe we could 3D print some, like, I don't know what to say, some mannequin style females for the males, so they're not so crazy.
Kind of like Canadian geese, for hunting. You've got the little models that people throw out when they're hunting Canadian geese.
I'm not allowed to talk about Canadian geese anymore, so I'm gonna tap out of that conversation. That's from Facebook. I got blocked on Facebook. Yeah, don't tell Facebook you're gonna drive over Canadian geese, so they get mad. I just like I love to see these close-up pictures. Now I'm spoiled in the isopod hobby with all the macro pictures right now, isopods and springtails, and so being able to see these individual bumps with the different colors, from farther away your eye just blends it naturally, but to see the pigment on these, the bright yellow, red, orange, black, even. I don't know, the pebbling, is that?
Yeah. Good way to describe it. I don't know, but I looked at that little spot in the middle, and it looks like, a Halloween ghoul. Over to your right. Up a little bit. Right there. Oops,
right here?
Right there. That's the face of a ghoul or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. That could be a morph.
I think I'm going to do that. Yep.
You can make up whatever name you want. Just put a name that no one else has on their table, and you'll sell out in 20 minutes. Like, oh, he's got the Svengoolies. Oh. And the Berwins. Oh, my God. So it sounds like they're easy to keep. And you're keeping them individually when they're not breeding.
I keep them together when they're not breeding. Not recommended. Males with the females. I have a few males that are away from the females. Most of the time, if I'm keeping a male away from the females, it's usually to kind of because they're smaller than the females. I want to grow the male up a little bit, make it more healthy. Sometimes during the summer, a male will be with females and will breed way too hard and lose a lot of weight and look really super thin by the time fall rolls around. So I sometimes will bring that male out, let the female kind of females recoup a little bit, but more importantly, let the male recoup and gain weight for the next season.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because he's busy.
Yes.
He's using a lot of energy. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
You're okay. You don't need chip crumbs on there or
Got a
anything.
little tear or something.
I will say my only complaint on this shirt. I love that it's a gift. It's very cozy.
Yeah.
Has a tag. It has a tag, and before this episode's over, I'm probably just gonna rip it off, and then there'll be a hole in the back of the shirt. I
If
don't
you
know why
don't
they
do it
still
now,
make shirts with tags.
it'll put a hole in your back.
I don't know about you guys. I hate tags and shirts. Like, it's a sensory thing for me. I lose my mind. Um, I was on a date. We were on a double date with my sister-in-law and my wife's sister and this guy she just started dating. The girls went to the bathroom. I stood up in the restaurant. There was a tag like in my jeans. Reached down into my jeans like mid-thigh to get this tag. And the other guy was like, "What is happening right now?" And it was pretty surreal. But I got that tag, and when I pulled it out, I was oblivious to anything else going on. I noticed everybody watching me around us, and I was like, I got it. Everything's good now.
I saw that video on YouTube and TikTok. That's pretty cool.
This might have been before. That was also the date that I pulled out. I had questions on cue cards for him, on index cards for him. It's like, oh, you want to date my sister-in-law, huh? Well, guess what?
Wow.
I'm a professional big brother. So
and professional tag puller.
I'll get a tag out of a cloth. Let me tell you, a cloth.
Frank says, yank that itchy tag. Isn't that a song? Yank that itchy tag. Yank that itchy tag.
Let's see. This might be in there. This is a thick shirt. What else? What other questions I have? So what are you using for food items on the adults? It looks like they could take down medium crickets if they're that big then.
No, they can take down adult crickets.
Bam.
They can take down, I don't want to say medium, just under medium dubias. Certainly mealworms. I wouldn't feed them super mealworms.
Okay, standard.
But 80% of their diet is mealworms. Probably 10% is dubias. Probably 70%, 20% dubias, and then 10% crickets.
Okay. Of course I got the tag, you guys. I told you I was a professional. Seriously, it's really soft. I have to say it's like the softest tag ever. So then the babies are on your micro mealworms.
100%.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, 100%. I
was wondering if you were doing like bean beetles or like bean beetle larvae, anything like that. Is that too small?
Well, at any given time downstairs, we probably have 20, 30, 40, 50 period or Picta babies. Oh, wow. And to find, that many, it's just really, really hard. Andrew has a great point. Gut load the food first. Yes. So anything that we're feeding to our animals, I'm going to take adults first. Any mealworms, I'll take my mealworm cup and I'll put the mealworms in, and I'm really diligent and I'm nerdy about this, but I'll take the mealworms. I don't shake and dust the mealworms before I feed. I probably should. It would save a lot of time, but I take the mealworms and I put them in the little mealworm cup, and now I'll kind of swirl around that mealworm cup a couple of times. It gives me a couple of seconds to kind of look around and make sure everything's doing it all right. But, that mealworm cup has calcium in it all the time. Calcium with D3, I should say. For the babies, I do kind of the same thing. I have, bigger babies, I have the mealworm cups. Smaller babies, I just use a bottle cap, and I have the dust in the bottle cap. So I'll throw the mealworms in there, and they'll dig around. And by the time the babies find them, they're going to be coated anyways. So that's supplements, and we mix our calcium with D3 with some vitamins. For gut loading, we're always feeding healthy diets to our mealworms and crickets.
You have some great videos. You have some great videos on that. So if you guys go to Wally's channel, there are some great videos of just feeders. You'll get to see Nanette do a lot of the work, which I think is very, it adds equity to the show.
Yeah, so what's your point?
It's good. No, it's good. I said it's good. Equity is good. That's what we all want right now. You're letting her take the reins on that chore you don't want to do.
I had to hold the camera. I was the camera holder.
That's true. I think it's great. Everyone in the chat gets 15% off of Picta. Nice.
There you go.
Frank's your moderator. He's up to it. Did you see
Sandy
Angie's?
said she had a question. I'm sorry. Sandy said she had a question.
It's right there. It's up on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's Angie. Sandy said she had,
Yep.
but Angie, so when the temperature is low, they don't breed, or do they breed year-round? They will breed year-round unless you drop the temperature dramatically. So again, in my facility right now, I would have to say the temperature is in the probably low 70s. And
Okay.
I fully anticipate I think we have probably only 3 or 4 trays of eggs. And this might sound terrible, but I fully anticipate, probably a 50% hatch rate out of those eggs because it is so cold.
Okay.
But again, I'm keeping them separate, and I want to see if I can get some maybe more females out of that group, just as an experiment. But it's like at the lower end of the temperature range in the 70s, lower 70s, the Picta, out of 14 groups that I have going, I'll find maybe 2 or 3 or 4 eggs a week ish, somewhere around there.
So yeah, so Sandy's question that was up there was pretty much the same thing. But I wanted to give Sandy props because she's not as bossy as Angie. So sorry, Angie. You've been here more often. I have to mess with you.
She's smiling right now. I know.
Big brother. I hope so.
I know Angie. She's smiling.
All right, good. She's always got a good attitude. What else did I have? I had more questions. They're not delicate. They're very handleable. I'm trying to think like Clint from Clint's Reptiles right now. Is this the best pet reptile? So far, they're getting a 5 out of 5. They're easy to keep. They're handleable. Very manageable space-wise. What do you do for heat then? You keep the room at a temperature that's appropriate.
I do. So our room in the summertime, right now I just mentioned again, it's in the lower 70s. In the summertime, the room is in the 80-ish range, 80, 82-ish. But I still, they still need a warm spot, and that's something that we didn't really cover too much, and this is a good topic. Can you go back to that baby setup where it's just a couple of deli up pops? Do you mind?
Nope, I don't mind. Let me get back to
So what we do is we keep everything in racks, except for a few that are in bioactives. And
these guys?
No, go to the one where it's like 4 animals. Yes. Okay. So what we'll do is all of our animals are set up in racks, except for a few again. But the ones that are set up in racks have heat tape in the back or heat cable. So for all of my adults, I do heat cable because I made the shelves too tight. When I pull out the tubs, it's pretty tight. So I couldn't get heat tape in there, so I did heat cable, and that works just fine.
I like the heat cable for my stuff. I think the heat cable lets you put it where you want it. I don't know. I just prefer the heat cable to the heat tape. Especially since I saw you had a video where you almost had a fire, right? Or you had some melted plastic.
It was close. It was pretty bad. I think we caught it probably within a week or so of it burning up. Wow. Always scary. Always something that, if you're working with heat tape, don't do what I did. I had some animals that I would occasionally pull the tubs out, and I probably drug over once or twice too tight and caused maybe a scratch in the tape that probably exposed it. But normally heat tape is really, really safe, especially nowadays. And those stands were built probably 10 or 12 years ago. So it might be the tape too. I don't know. Anyways, we'll put tape on like the back 20, 25%, 30% of the tubs. And those heat tapes will run around high 80s, 90-ish. So while the ambient temperature is in the 80s, and you don't need to run it that high, the ambient temperature can be in the 75, 76, 77. Ours is 80, 81, 82, but we always have a warm spot of 86, 87, 88, all the way up to 90.
Okay, so they've got that gradient.
So they have the gradient.
That's good. And I feel like heat tape, they can get up off of it too. That helps.
Yeah. And in this tank, again, this is a juvenile tank. I set it up differently, a little bit differently now, but in all of our adult tanks, we have hides both on a warm spot and on the cool spot. Now, I'll a lot of times find the males on the warm side and the females on the cool side. I'm
Okay.
guessing that the warm side is probably preferable, but the females I'll find on the warm side as well, but more often I'll find the males, which is kind of interesting.
Just dominating, or it's good for the testosterone, you know?
It's my house.
Right? So yeah, Frank wants to know volume of mealworms that you're going through.
Total not, but I can only say this with all the other animals that we have, but we're going through probably about 40,000 adults and probably 10,000 micro mealworms a month.
Wow.
But that's also, we're also feeding crickets, and we're also feeding dubias and other foods as well. But that's our staple for all of our animals.
Still, that's crazy. Okay, so Angie, before she yells at me, she wants to know how many eggs per clutch.
Yeah.
There's like, what is it, 2? And then that one had 4, which is, or was that 2 from her and 2 from another?
It probably was. It certainly was.
Okay.
I shouldn't say probably. It certainly was.
Do you keep them 2 to 1 in the
I
tubs?
keep them. It depends on what I'm doing. If it's a stripe pattern, I'm trying to get bigger stripes. I have a lot of stripes, so I might keep a male with 2 females that look almost exactly the same. Some of my red projects, I'm keeping separate. I'm keeping a male to a female because I want to know exactly what that female is producing, so I can.
Smart.
Yeah, I have 3 different groups of reds, and some of them are throwing a little bit brighter reds, so I'll probably work with their animals more than the other 2. Things like that. It's what anybody that's doing some line breeding, leopard geckos with the caratails, what line breeding is all about is, selective breeding. So if you're doing 1 to 3, you don't know really where those babies are coming from.
Right. You don't know which animal to branch off of. Yeah, I got you.
Exactly.
Sandy wants to know if they drop their tails easily or at all.
They do. They grow back. Not like gargoyles where you can't tell the difference. But not like leopard geckos where they're little stubby turnip tails.
Yeah, I hate that so much.
They'll grow back probably about 2/3, 3/4 the size of their normal tails.
Okay.
How do they drop? I've never ever had one startled and drop its tail. I've never seen a tail drop. It's always because of aggression from a male.
They seem so chill. It has to be hard for them to drop it.
I know.
It has to be a lot of stimulus for them to actually drop it, I feel like.
Yeah, a lot of stress from the males. And when you see obviously if you see a tail dropped, that means you probably want to yank that male out and let him rest up a little bit, and certainly give the female time to recoup as well.
Sure. Frank actually has good questions tonight. He's not just messing with you. I'm used to Frank just jacking with you the whole episode, but these are good questions, Frank. So are you breeding reds with the high whites? That's a good question.
No. Yes. I was going to say no because I haven't really gotten to that point, but I take it back because I do have one group that's a red male. No, I'm sorry. It's a white male with a red female. I want to see what that group does. I don't know what it will do, but and that's half the fun of this is, you're doing things that, every one of these Picta just looks different and you don't know what you're going to get. So taking a red with a white, you never know.
Let me know if you get a nice pink and blue, like that crested that you had. That was the joke of the egg. So the last show I saw Wally at, he had a cresty that he had it covered up. It was covered up by all these other regular cresties. Well, not really. They're beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. They're all gorgeous, but they were regular cresties, and this one was covered. And I was looking at all of his, animals. It was a little slow, and I uncovered one that was like pastel pink and blue, and I shat myself a little bit because I'd never seen that ever, and it was labeled like $90, and I was getting ready to call my wife to be like, "Hey, I'm about to spend $100 on a lizard. again. So sorry, but this is happening because I don't know, Wally mislabeled this or something. So yeah, Wally and Nanette both got to make fun of me because it was just shedding. That's just what it looks like in shed. And so that was my joke about the eggs earlier. That's my joke about the pink and blue now. I think it's a pretty combo. I wish it would stick around. Beetle Guy had a question, but Beetle Guy, you're going to have to go back and watch the beginning of the episode because we covered that mess already. That's what you get for showing up an hour late, brother.
Throw his question up there. I'll go ahead and answer it.
Geez. You coddle them. They won't stop.
I'm too soft. What sort of substrates do you use, and do you ever house them in bioactives? The substrates that I use is sand. For again, 95% of my animals are kept on sand. I have a few animals that are kept in bioactive, but sand, about 1/2 of an inch deep for the adults. About 1/2 of an inch deep, but under their hides, I make it a little bit deeper, maybe an inch, inch and a half. And that's where they'll constantly lay their eggs. So I can go to that one deli cup size little place in the enclosure, and I can comb through with my fingers and find the eggs for the adults. Bioactive, I do it as a typical bioactive. A little bit of sand, lots of topsoil, some peat moss, and isopods and springtails.
I had a question for this little setup here, so that we have on the screen. So I got to get to it before I can't see my mouse there. So here you've got the calcium in this dish.
Yeah.
Do they just snack on the calcium? Do they just go to it when they?
I've never
feel
seen
the
them.
Need?
Yeah, I've never seen them lick calcium. Like I've seen leopard geckos constantly licking at calcium. I've never seen a Picta licking at the calcium.
Okay.
But
okay.
And again, I think this is from a video where I said, okay, let me see if I can. Andrew probably knows better than I do. Where I said, let me see if I can set up this baby enclosure in less than a minute. And I did the hides, and I poured the sand in, I put and everything within a minute. So in that video, I probably took a little tablespoon of sand or calcium and just dumped it in the top. What I normally do is I'll put a little bit more, I'll put a lot more than that in. And when I put the mealworms in, they'll kind of crawl around all over the deli cup top, and they'll get, wrapped up in that calcium. So, when I'm doing a real setup like this, I'll probably use 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times that much calcium.
Okay. Andrew says he remembers that video.
Sure he does.
A good question.
10 times.
Right? A good question from Beetle Guy that I think is good for beginners too is, do you worry about impaction? This used to be something that I obsessed about, and I think a lot of keepers did, because you would get horror stories, but I think the reality is they're few and far between. The impaction issue, is that?
I think it is too. I worry about impaction for animals that lick in nature to get their supplements, animals such as leopard geckos. I don't worry about that. Again, just like I just said, I've never seen a period or a Picta lick the calcium ever. I'm not saying that they don't. Maybe they do. I just have never seen that. I've never had an animal that, from my knowledge, and I don't know, 100% if this is true or not, but I don't think I've ever had an animal die on me because it's been impacted. Usually you can tell if an animal is impacted because I hate to be, so bad about saying this, but their stomachs are really hard and they feel like, little sandbags.
Yeah.
I've never seen that ever with a period or a Picta, ever. So I don't worry about it with these animals. And in fact, this is a great reference to another animal that I have. I have Coleonyx brevis, and they're kept over sand. And the funny thing is that whenever I clean their enclosure and I'm picking up the debris, it feels a little bit like sand. So I'm kind of a little concerned about that, but the sand that I'm using is very, very fine, so it can pass a lot easier. I never use, unless it's something like a chondrodactylus, something that's used to sand in nature, a heavy sand, I'll use play sand occasionally for animals like that. But most of the sand that I use, you can see it right here, is reptilite, never calca sand, something like that. So,
yeah, I thought that the calca sand was a good idea. I feel like it's a better idea for isopod keepers than
Yes.
for reptile keepers. So I think if I had these, I would keep them on a darker sand or a darker substrate because I think they'd pop up better. But
Good point.
that's from not a breeder. That's from a keeper perspective. So I don't have a hat to put backwards because I'm over the top. We're gonna make a lot of good references tonight, Wally, because you're usually I build you as the movie guru on one of the posts I put up. Because you always quote movies that I'm like, what? You have the weirdest quotes that you choose. A lot of the times, it's so fun. You're like, it's from this
Kind of
movie.
sporadic. Yeah.
Yeah. You like eggs and toast? Where's that from? It's from Rocky. What are you kidding? Sandy is very supportive of of Frank and Andrew anyway. She's a very supportive lady to have around. Sandy, if you want to come by more Tuesdays, I'd love to have you and just support everybody. It feels really good. Off topic, Wally, what's the best for the bottom of a leopard gecko tank?
Oh my gosh. I would love to see everybody else's opinions on that. I keep them on bare bottoms. Simply because, again, as a breeder, I'm not displaying my animals, I'm breeding the animals. And anybody that, looks at my enclosures and says, oh, you bare bottom racks and tubs and everything. I will say, where do we feel like 90% of our animals are coming from? So that's my retort to people that are concerned about rack breeding keepers. My animals are healthy. I'm watching them all the time, looking at them at least every other day. But for the leopard geckos, I have them in 15 quart tubs individually, bare bottom. You can do paper towel if you want. Hides, absolutely hides, food dish, water dish. If you wanted to do something a little bit more elaborate, you could do certainly paper towels, or you could do tiles, although I'm not a huge fan of tiles. I'd rather do just bare bottoms. A lot of people have gone over to a real, there's a word for it, and I can't think of it, but a real hard sand, compacting sand so it doesn't break up.
Okay. Like the excavator clay kind of thing?
Yeah. More for a natural, lots of rocks. And, if you're doing a more display tank, lots of rocks and a clay like that would be probably the best way to go.
Okay. I will say you ruined my idea. I don't think my Hoffs did very well in my E-Man setup. So I was thinking of keeping Picta in there, but it seems like I assumed they were very desert animals, and that's a very arid setup. So excavator clay, and I don't think it's a very good setup for them. So
for the Picta or for the Hoffs?
The Hoffs are doing not as well as I thought. I think I'm going to pull them out. So they're not breeding well in there. So I think I have all the animals that I had that I started with, but I haven't seen any babies. It's been 4 or 5 months. So that's unusual for my Hoffs. My Hoffs don't mess around. And I went even Steven. I had 1 female to 1 male in there, 10 of each. Yeah, but I was thinking of pulling the Hoffs and then I love that tank, so I want to put something else in there, and I thought Picta, but it doesn't sound like that's a good mix.
I did some Hoffman Segai in a morning gecko tank, because morning geckos are usually a little bit higher. And then I just kind of lost track of them and go in and feed, forgot that they were in there, and go in and feed, and it's like, holy crap, what is that thing running out from under that leaf? You're thinking little teeny tiny morning geckos, and this thing's just about the same size as a morning gecko.
Hoffs are still the king. I don't care. Magnificus I still want, but Hoffs are the king. I got to show you. I got to send you some pics. Somebody sent me some pictures of a brand new ice spot I've never seen. And I need to send you the pics tonight. I think it's still on the DL. If I have permission, or when that person's coming on next month. So that'll be really cool. Hopefully they'll share that picture with me, with you guys.
Yeah.
Excavator clay mixed with substrate. Yeah. Oh, Angie wants to know how Crystal's enjoying her new Black Knights.
We talk about them almost every day. She goes down and checks them every other day. Right now they're brewmating because we're really not feeding them. We're just watering them, and they're sitting up on a shelf next to the wall downstairs in the basement. So they're pretty cool right now. She'll every day. Boy, I can't wait until February. I can't wait until February. How are we going to set them up? How do we incubate the? So this gift has kind of sparked, and that's what it should do with kids. This gift has sparked that interest in not just understanding the animals, but then taking it to the next step and trying to make them as healthy as they possibly can be for the next purpose in life, and that's to have babies. She is all over it, all over it. I keep asking her, so when because I'm once they start reproducing, it's my room and it's my enclosures and it's my food, and I'm probably going to be cleaning their tubs. How many of the babies are you going to give me? None. Wait, that doesn't make any. Grandpa, you don't get any babies.
Well, that's what I said. I send you that message that you've been so busy lately that it was like, how's Crystal liking her Black Nights? And then I had the proposed question like, what are you going to do with the babies? And the answer was go to college, probably. I don't know. They're highly sought after right now. That's a crazy gecko. But they're gorgeous. That male, was it the male that was like almost black? Almost solid black, or the female?
Yes. Was it the male? No, it was.
I think it was the male. Either way, whichever one was solid black was unbelievable.
Hold on, let me yell for Crystal. No, I think she's in bed already.
I would hope so. You're in the same time zone as me. She is going to take over the business, Angie. Absolutely.
What's cool about this is that she's already talking about, well, let's see, if we have 10 babies, I can take 4 or 5 to the show, but I can raise up 5 babies for next year. So she's going through the process that, pick up Ron Trumper's Leopard Gecko book, and on page 68, you'll see how he kind of plans out the next 3 or 4 years. So she's kind of starting to do some of those mathematical equations in her head.
Awesome. And she's like, what, 10, 12?
She's 11 now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just turned 11, yeah.
Unbelievable. That's so cool. Wait, I had another question for these guys, and I don't remember what it was. Are they as I loved when I had my Leos, the predatory. I had very active, very savage leopard geckos when it came to hunting their food. So they would like scurry out. One, I had the back wall was a cork board, and just because I thought it looked cool, and I would pin like plastic plants to it. And so a cricket went up there, and he climbed it just straight up, 90-degree angle, and jumped at the cricket. And I was blown away, full-grown Leo. I expect that from a young one, but do they have that same kind of like? Do you get any that are like that same level of savagery?
So in my mind, I'm thinking, crested geckos, and you feed them, crickets, and they have like one brain cell, and they hear the cricket first, and then they see the cricket, and then they try to target, their targeting system starts working, and they try to focus on that cricket. And then like 3 seconds after the cricket has moved into the corner, they'll, like a raptor, like a dinosaur raptor, smash into the side of the tank. So that's crested geckos. Leopard geckos are, like you were saying, they'll hunt their prey, and once they find their prey, they'll pounce on it. My Periodor Picta all have lounge chairs and little TV screens in their setup. So I have to actually bring them like a TV tray full of food, and they just kind of sit back and, like popcorn, they'll just kind of sit and watch TV. And
so they're lazy.
They're lazy.
All right.
Butts.
All right.
They're not picky whatsoever, but they're not ferocious hunting. And it's probably more the way I have them set up, in these breeding setups, is that their food is always right here. And it's, the food dish is always full. If I have mealworms in after a couple of days, I take those mealworms out and I fill it up with, new fresh gut-loaded mealworms.
Okay. Did we lose you or did we lose me? All right. We're back.
I think we're here. Yeah.
Do Picta stand up on 4 legs? Yeah, it looks like they do when they're walking.
Hold on, let me get some one and let's see if we can get it on 4 legs.
Most geckos, in my experience, are belly. They're belly layers most of the day.
Yeah.
Kind of have that like crocodilian aspect where they're like mostly on their belly, but they can get up and like I remember my Leos. I don't know why I keep comparing these to Leo. Let's get this out of here. Hold on. There we go. Nope, he's snuggling that belly.
Never determine. Oops, now I'm going to lose it because I just showed my face.
You can see in the picture that they were up. One of them was up on all 4s, like with his belly off the ground. They're so cool.
They're just lazy butts.
I can't get over how chill they are for such a small lizard. 5-hour stream. Yeah, we're almost done. We're pretty much done, Frank. It's just going to be me and Wally BSing until Wally just nods off on the camera. That's my favorite moment.
Hold on.
He's got to flip his hat back so you can go over the top. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
What was the old V8? Was that the one where he punched you, or was that the Hawaiian Punch?
That was Hawaiian Punch.
Hawaiian Punch. All right. I want to know what happened to that guy. He got retired.
Let me show
Probably
you this
for harassment.
Yeah, that would work in today's marketing, wouldn't it? Okay, and then he's going to punch the guy in the face. That's what he's going to do
with the juice.
Brilliant.
With the chemical, the red chemical that's in that cup. They want to call it juice, but Barb Hell, welcome to the show. Is this a different one?
This is a different one. I was hoping it would show off that stripe.
Oh yeah, you can see it. It's totally in focus. You can probably work on your cuticles a little bit, but
I know
the gecko looks fantastic. Oh, he looks a little more antsy.
Yeah, a little bit. He's looking around.
Did they ever get a fat tail, or do they keep that thin tail?
Pretty much the thin tail.
Streamlined.
I'm going to show it off here a little bit. This is a healthy animal. You can see it's not super pencil thin, but
right.
Lost my cup.
I always look at the body. I always find to look at the body, unless it's like a leopard or a knobtail or something like that. Then
Yeah.
How often do they lay eggs?
Every 3 weeks at the most.
Okay. All right. So that's not bad.
Two eggs every 3 weeks.
It's pretty solid.
Frank's got a great question. How many grams are full-grown individuals? I've got to say 35 to 40 grams. I mean, let me show this adult. Let me show this biggest one that I have right now.
Oh, you have the biggest. Okay, cool.
This is the bigger one that I showed a little bit earlier. And I would say that this one is probably, it's a male. Females get a little teeny tiny bit bigger. But hopefully you can see, this is, palm size. But this one's probably about, 20 grams or so. Ish.
Cool.
So
I can't get over those eyes. Look
it will fatten
eyes.
up. I wish I could get it.
They definitely have the same quality. Like, I'm just comparing them to Leos because that's what I'm used to, and they basically are. Like, the way they look is a tiny Leo, a tiny skinny Leo. Like, they look healthy, but they're not chonkers like the Leo.
No.
But they have that smile. They have even bigger eyes, giant head to body ratio, which makes them even more adorable. Of course, their testicles look bigger than they probably should too, but sorry for our 9-year-old viewer. Jose, your daughter. I'm sorry.
Whoa, 3D. Whoa.
3D testes. Look out. That's biology, kids. Now, when I was working at the vet, we did tours of the veterinary clinic, and that was my job to give the tours. Not my only job, but we had a homeschool. We had a homeschool bus of like 4 homeschool moms and their kids. And I don't know if you know about homeschoolers, but I'm very into stereotypes. And homeschool families will have like 30 or 40 kids. So we had the ones that could walk. No, that's not. Each of these people had like 4 or 5 kids. And we go through and we're doing the whole thing. And we're talking about surgeries we do. And the mom is like, we're talking about like spay and neuter. And the one mom asked me, like, can you tell them about the reproduction part of it? And I was like, no.
No.
I was like, no, that's pretty much your job. Like that. No, I am not signed up for that. She was really upset that I wouldn't do it. I was like, no,
That's
no.
your job.
I said, I'm way too funny. I'm going to damage your kids on purpose if you make me do this. It's going to be my thrill to do that. But
So I have a funny story about this. I'm a firm believer that it should be, schools have their place, but that's something that I feel strongly about, that should be, education should come from mom and dad. So Christopher, our oldest son, got up to age. So Christopher, let's go in my room and let's sit down and talk. And I was in and I do talk about this. So it's like a half hour. So, I can see him. No question. Okay.
just taking it
And
in.
probably, I don't even know right now. I should know, but probably a 12, 13-ish. So half hour. And do you have any questions? No, I think I'm okay. Okay. I grab the remote and I turn on the TV. And if you have any questions, I'm right here. Come and ask me, or you can ask mom if you. So he walks downstairs and mom so you had the talk with dad. He kind of told me that he was going to talk to you about sexual, and he goes, yeah, I did. And she goes, how did it go? Did you have any questions? And he goes, I don't know why he had to tell me all that stuff.
I have a daughter, so I'm going to have a notebook. I'm going to have like a binder. It's going to be pretty. I'm going to have a taser. There's going to be a taser.
No, you have the puppets.
I do have puppets. I can do the chicken and clutch. I still got to launch that channel. Yeah, so watch for that, people. I'll post links occasionally. See, Aaron has 5 that they homeschool. I don't know if that's a male Aaron or a female Aaron. It's not my business. Who else? Luch started homeschooling his 14-year-old. Solid. Let him get a little older. It did take a weird turn, Beetle Guy. It did. That's my show. Beetle Guy acts like he's new. He acts like he doesn't know this.
Yeah, we were just showing off some genetics and some stuff on geckos. Yeah, so that was a natural course of action.
And then we did a weird testicle song, and we're back to normal. Just show her the animal junk video and call it good. Hey, if our 9-year-olds can watch that episode and laugh, I think I did a good job. So Wally, I think that's all I have tonight. Do you have any other information for us?
I have to reiterate just real quick, if I can follow up on an hour and 37 minutes. 2 sides to Periodor Picta. It's the, oh my gosh, these are the coolest cutest little animals, and they're easy to keep, and I love them so much, and I will hold him and I will squeeze him and I will love him forever. And not very little requirements, and great eaters. Keep them in bioactive, keep them in the sand, no real requirements there. But for the Wally Kern breeder, I'm going to develop some of these morphs. Brandon's going to develop some morphs. Andrew's going to develop some morphs, and it is going to look, we just lost our light here. It is going to look amazing. Some of these animals that we get are going to look simply amazing.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see those, to see what happens with that white that you have. And I'm going to get in touch with Andrew, see if he has any pictures. Andrew, you're still watching. I think he's signed off. I'm going to message you later, Andrew, to see some of those pictures. And if, who else was it?
Brandon.
Post some pictures in IsoBuddies. Help me get that page active again. It's been very, very hard to get people active in that group. So fire it up. I'll help. I promise I'll help. So, dude, Wally, always a good time. I learned a lot today. So I like that a lot of it carries over. A lot of the knowledge I already had. But again, I had no idea they were tropical. But my brain, I'm already working on a beach setup for Pictas, like a little beach vivarium would be kind of cool.
So 100-gallon tank, and you have just a corner, for a beach kind of setup. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, nice wave machine in there. You know,
Exactly.
some kind of little wave machine, tiny seagulls.
Tiny little rafts, that they could drink their tropical drink
Perfect.
on. Yeah,
Perfect.
love
I'm
it.
going to have video of the setup that's going on now for the 100 gallons. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, if you've ever DIY'd, I don't know, but we'll get into that some other time. Wally, I'm going to let you go. Get to bed or work off that energy drink and feed your 5,000 geckos.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the great questions. Amazing questions. Thank you very much.
They were amazing questions. So, your guys bring their brains. It's nice. It's nice. We'll see you soon, Wally. Thank you so much. All right,
Bye-bye.
guyssupremegecko.com. Get there. Talk to you later, Wally.
Take care.
All right. Oh, wait, I brought you right back in. Boomerang. There we go. All right. Wally's free to do whatever he needs to do. So, guys, hey, thanks for coming over from Supreme Gecko. If you're one of my regular viewers, God bless you. Thank you so much. I love my viewers. I love Wally's viewers. I love everybody's viewers. Just come watch the show. Enjoy it. I hope you had as much fun as we did. There is a Patreon if you're interested in that. We're saving money still to try to go visit Russ and Clint's Reptiles in Utah. We're not even close, but we're going to keep trying. We're going to be posting build videos of the 100-gallon ant paludarium. That's going to house my massive ant colony. They're getting upgraded from a 30 to 100 gallons. Partly, there's going to be newts and fish in there. It's going to be a whole cool thing. Next week, I already forgot who we're talking to next week. Next week, we are going to talk to a very special guest. I'm excited. And we've got more guests coming up. We're going to be talking about mantises finally. We're going to be talking about, we got Ryan Pavey coming on. Again, we're going to talk about springtails. If you haven't heard enough about springtails. The 31st, I'm going to be talking with Green Jedi Monkey. That's going to kick off a whole series. So just come for that. I don't want to spoil it at all because it's going to be so much fun. If you like to laugh, show up for that episode. Other than that, guys, have a great week. Know that I love you. I love that you're coming. If you're a Patreon, I thank you even more. Thank you so much.